Okay. Should be fine right there.
Okay.
All right.
Kelly's going to pick Colin up. That's good.
Everybody's letting us know there's no sound, Chris.
I know, there should be sound.
I know.
That's why I said to stand up so everyone knows that there's no sound. So
there's no sound.
now there's sound.
There's sound now.
Now there's sound.
Sound. Go ahead and sing, Mike. Sing a few bars.
What do you want me to sing?
Yes. Yes. I hear the sound. So, all right. Thank you, Randy. Got it. All right. Hello, welcome to our discussion here for the lodging tax, hotel tax, visitor tax, however you like to look at that. That will be Tuesday, April 5th. Polls will be open from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. I'm Chris Evans, along with Phil Nichols on that far side inside our unnamed studios.
Still unnamed.
But one day.
One day we'll name it.
And we are with the Chamber CEO, Brittany Timmons, also Superintendent of Guthrie Public Schools, Dr. Mike Simpson, who are also parents, and that's the main reason why they are here to talk about their kids and Guthrie, and hope to have an open discussion on this topic here with some information and, more importantly, your questions. And I hope to follow those here. I usually try to have the fancy graphic, but I think my Surface is not on the same network. So no fancy comments on the screen, but if you have any comments or questions, that's why we're here this evening to discuss that. And I appreciate you guys coming on short notice. And I just feel like this is an important topic to continue to talk about. We've had a couple on here on this forum talking about it. Articles have been talked. There's been plenty of social media, but I think this is just the time to get everyone on the same page. Whether we're all not going to agree, and
that's okay.
And that's okay.
That's okay.
And Phil, I just, that's kind of my thoughts on this. Your opening thoughts?
Well, I mean, I think to your point, I mean, some folks have an opinion that this is a bad thing. Some folks have an opinion that this is a good thing. That's why we have elections. You go out. You want to encourage everybody to go out and vote. I will say this. I think that, based on my experience over the last few weeks, when people really started talking about this in much greater detail, I think there's a lot of confusion out there about what this really does, what it doesn't do, what's it going to be for, what's it not for. And I get both sides. I mean, I saw some of the print advertising in the local newspaper where it says, very skillfully, I might add, sales and hotel tax. What's being raised is the hotel motel tax, potentially what's going to be raised. It's not the sales tax isn't being raised. It's the hotel motel tax that's being raised. So I think, I understand some of the people that have came out and said we don't know this is good for us. They're in the business of hotels, motels, Airbnbs. I understand it. I also talk to people that are in the Airbnb business and that have those kind of properties that aren't against it. So it goes both ways.
Yeah.
I will say, just from my own perspective, we're talking about a few dollars a night. That's not coming out of those business owners' pocket. Right. They're passing through the additional revenue that's raised. You have a right to be against it, just like I have a right to be for this. But I think it's important that people understand that if you live in the city limits of Guthrie, your taxes are not being raised unless you stay at the hotel. Right. Or if you stay at an Airbnb, you're going to pay a little more, a few dollars a night.
And I really want to dive into all those particular things, but kind of tell just real quick how we got here about this lodging tax is the city of Guthrie won a very competitive grant, statewide grant. I think they only given up like $5 million, and Guthrie actually got $1 million. Applied for the grant. The city of Guthrie matched that grant, 50-50 grant, with the CIP sales tax, matched with $1 million. So we got $2 million to begin a sports complex. Now, it's been many steps before that. We were looking for the best and the best there was on the biggest land, the best lights, and all the great scoreboards. Yeah. Didn't work out, and we had to narrow it down. And I thought credit to the city staff to go out and get a very competitive bid. Credit to the council to saying this is a project that we think is great going forward. So, yes, we need a lot more than $2 million, but it's a great start, and
We have 2 million.
And I think that's a great start, and
Right.
it's something that, and that's why I brought Brittany, mom, and Mike, the dad, as well, because you guys have kids going through the process right now. My kids have gone through. We had to go play out of town, but just to upgrade the facilities, and we can talk about the tournaments and the weekend stuff, but it starts, I think, for the local kids that have something to have pride in. Yeah. And I'm going to let you guys talk about it here in a second, but I'll never forget. I took Kel Esmond to his first game out. We played in the Edmond League, and he goes, "Dad, look, dugouts. They have real dugouts." Yeah. And he was cool because it was a night game. There was bright lights. So that's just my little deal. But Brittany, just you're heavy in softball right now. Just kind of give us what the sports complex and the maintenance and all that good stuff will do for kids.
Yeah, so I will kind of go at it right now as like you said, the mom hat. I'll take off my chamber hat for a moment. That's hard for me to do. Yeah. But anyway, so I have a 7-year-old little girl and a couple this is our second year now to play. It's our 4th season. We actually play on a team consisting of all Logan County girls. All but 2 of our girls are Guthrie students and Guthrie residents, and then 2 of our girls live in Mulhall. So a couple of years ago, we got invited actually by a friend of a friend kind of thing for our daughter to play. But she said, it's all Guthrie kids, so it'll be girls that she may know already or go to school with. And then it made it nice because we could practice or meet and have discussions here, but the parents didn't want to stay in Guthrie to play due to our facilities. Yeah. So we are a full team. I think there's 10 girls that consist, like I said, of all Guthrie girls and at least all Logan County girls for sure. And we drive to Edmond a couple nights a week to play softball. And so, I put this on my Facebook page and stuff too, guess where we eat before or after we eat in Edmond. And we would much rather stay here, I mean, if anybody's promoting do everything local, it's me in my office, and that's what we want. But which just doesn't make sense right now for what we have. So, so that's kind of where I'm coming from, just as a parent that would love to have the facilities to stay here.
And Mike, you've been around the state like we all have at facilities and seen those where not only Guthrie is not very good, but it's like horrendously bad.
Right, it's embarrassing.
Well, I think the thing, thinking back, Brittany, you sharing your story a little bit, thinking back to my son's first foray into T-ball, and it was in the flats, and we got practices in, got a couple of practice games in. We're ready to start the season, and the 100-year flood that we all remember occurred. And that ended, for all intents and purposes, his season until they could work out some things to go to Owens. And so he got to play about 3 games out there. And, my daughter played, similar to your situation, she played here until we went to Edmond. But she has since stepped away from softball, and her friends that were on her team, they're on traveling teams now or teams in Edmond. And I come from this as a parent, but also as someone that is concerned about our youth and trying to provide opportunities for them to find an outlet, an extracurricular. And I also know that not everyone has the means to go to Edmond for that. And so trying to take away barriers for our kids to provide them opportunities. And I don't think anyone would ever agree that the flats is a solution. And I certainly know that they've done everything they can with the funds provided to make Owens as big of an option as possible. Right. But in the end, it's kind of like some of the things we face with a school. You can't, without some real money, you can't make effective change.
Right.
And Phil, I think everybody on this topic, there's been a lot of social media back and forth. I think everybody understands the facilities are not very good. So I think everybody whether they're for the tax or against the tax, understand that the facilities aren't there. And you mentioned the flash, and like, you don't want to put a lot of money into that facility because the 100-year flood is going to come back in 3 years and it's 2 floods. And so then you have all that resources that you just put your money away.
Yeah.
But I think everybody out there understands, yes, the facilities are needed.
I think they understand that, but I'm over here smiling when Mike's talking about this, because 20 years ago when we moved to Guthrie and I was coaching my son then, Tyler, guess where we did it at? In the flats. And some people could say it's okay. I'm just going to tell you, I don't think it is okay.
Yeah.
I think our kids deserve to have nice things. I think this is a step towards getting them that. I understand people can disagree about whether they think this is a good solution or not a good solution. That's fine. Those are fair debates. But, you know, at some point as a community, we've got to decide, do we want to have nice things for our children or do we not?
Right.
Now, I think that's a much greater threat to the well-being of our community long term. If the choice is we're not going to invest in our community, we're not going to invest in our kids, you know, because I may personally be affected, maybe. I'm one of these people that believes, I travel all the time, as you know, Chris. I've traveled for years. Not once in my life have I ever booked a hotel room and asked what the hotel motel tax was in that community. Not one time. I know there's people that do. Sure. I understand that, but I think they're far and away in the minority. I think if people are wanting to come to Guthrie to see Guthrie and to experience Guthrie, go to events in Guthrie, especially with $4.67 gas right now, are they going to go on to Edmond and then spend $10 round trip in gas if you're driving a truck? Because that's what you'd be spending. I mean, the numbers don't add up. You know, do you mind if I read this question?
Well, I was just going to say, in this, you know, wanting to build this facility, and there's Broken Arrow, there's these big towns, there's little towns. These little towns have impressive sites as well. Perry has done a great job and taking pride in that. But so it's not, you know, looking for the biggest, you know, we looked at it and it wasn't possible.
You're right.
I think one of the things when you look at a problem, and you know, this is similar to some of the challenges that we faced as a school district with bond issues, but I think, you know, so much of the time we're looking for the perfect solution, and letting perfection get in the way of progress takes you nowhere. Right. And I think that's something that this community has shown. They've demonstrated that they did not want to let perfection get in the way of progress with the many things that we've done that are progressive.
Absolutely.
In a very conservative community, with the bond elections, with the CIP tax, and with the support that the community has shown for its citizens. And I think that's something that we have to be careful about.
Well, and you got to look around too, Mike. I mean, Guthrie's not the same town it was, I guarantee you, 20 years ago when we moved here. It's not the same town it was 5 years ago. I mean, we're growing.
I've been here 10 years, and it's amazing what the transformation that's happened.
Yeah, I mean, it's exciting.
It is exciting. And it's not just in this topic.
Right.
I was speaking to a gentleman today that works at the courthouse, and you know, if you have too many trials going on at the same time, they can't conduct court because we don't have enough courtrooms. I mean, it's, you know, so what I would simply tell people is, when you're growing, it's like if your house grows and you start out, it's just you and your wife, and you buy a nice little 1,000-square-foot home. And then you have a child, and you say, okay, well, we got 2 bedrooms, that's okay. And then you have another child. Well, we need a bigger house. If you have another child, well, we need a bigger house. I mean, and then if you get more kids, you need a bigger vehicle. All these things cost more money. Yeah. I mean, it's no different. We're growing as a community. There's going to be things that are going to cost money. I think, and real quick, Chris, if you don't mind, Randy asked this question. He said, my question is, couldn't this tax be deemed unconstitutional due to taxation without representation, since the people paying it don't have a vote? I'm guessing nobody can actually sue until they have to pay that tax, because the people getting to vote on it won't pay for it. And the locals would not have standing since it doesn't affect this. Listen, I'm no lawyer. None of us here are. But I know this. I don't get to vote when St. Louis raises their hotel motel tax. I don't get to vote when Edmond does it. I don't get to vote when Perry does it. I don't get to vote any place where I may be going to stay.
Stillwater did it last
Stillwater did it last week. So I'm pretty certain that dog's been hunted. I'm pretty sure people much smarter than me have looked into that and know that this is perfectly constitutional and perfectly legal. Because at the end of the day, people have a choice. Nobody's forcing them to stay here. I still think they will stay here, but nobody's forcing them to stay here.
Right.
So I don't think there'd be any legal ground for that. Like I said, that's just my opinion. Obviously, I'm not an attorney, but I think there's just so much miscommunication on what this really is going to do. We're talking about if the average hotel room in Guthrie cost how much a night?
$100.
$100. What's the average hotel room in Edmond cost? It's more than $100. I can promise you it's more than $100. So if the theory is if we raise the tax 4% on $100, it's $4, right? So if the argument is well, they're going to go to Edmond, and pay a higher rate? I mean, they're going to go pay a higher rate? I mean, they're not. If their argument's true, I still think people are going to stay where it's convenient to stay for them for a few dollars. That's my personal belief.
And I just want to have the discussion because you're with the chamber, so you see a lot of people, Mike. You've gone through this with the school, but having these discussions, I have a neighbor to the side that's probably all for it, and I have a neighbor to the side that's all for it. But the reason I like to have this conversation is just make sure we're all on the same page and know what we're voting on.
Yeah.
And there's going to be, some people are going to be for it, some people are against it, but to have the great dialogue, have all the facts, information, and base that judgment. And, I have friends on both sides.
Right.
Yeah,
so do I.
And Mike.
That I care about deeply,
Yeah.
and that's okay.
No, it's okay to have, it's 100% okay to disagree about this. Like I said to begin, that's why you have elections.
Right.
I mean, we'll know tomorrow night from about an hour and a half. When do polls close?
7.
So we'll know in about an hour, about 25 hours, we'll know whether it's the yays or the nays. That's how we do things in our fair country. I mean, if people don't agree with it, they'll state that. If people do agree with it, they'll state that, and it'll end up the way it ends up.
I actually talked to someone today who told me that she didn't really understand a lot of it, and so we had a really good conversation where I got to kind of educate her about what it means. And she said, that's one thing when my family moved here years ago that we went through pros and cons, about Guthrie. And she said the youth and the sports complex was for her.
Well, yeah.
And so I think looking at it like you were talking about, Phil, with the growth that we're seeing, and I mean, you want to talk about growth, sit down with me for 5 minutes with the chamber. I will tell you about how exciting things are right now in Guthrie, if you don't know already. And so that could be something that, attracts, this could be, like you said, we got to think long-term, big picture, progressiveness. And this could be something that families, avid sports families, I grew up in one. Both me and my brother played sports, and my parents still to this day, world revolves around sports. I realize that's not everybody, but there are people and families that are going to look at that and go, maybe not. It's just like with the schools. We have to constantly be evolving and moving forward, or we're not going to attract these families to move to our great community.
Guthrie's a sports community. Yes. Always has been. I mean, there's no denying that.
Right.
And, you look at the history of what we've done with our public school system and our athletic program, but it's also, for what we have with the arts, it's what makes Guthrie very unique. I know you're going tonight. I went yesterday afternoon to Mamma Mia. Wow, what a great job by our kids. But, I'm sitting there in a facility that, quite frankly, I'm embarrassed at. But I learned, 10 years ago when I came here, it was overwhelming, the challenges. But it's the same old thing. How do you eat an elephant one bite at a time? And that's the thing. This is a bite of part of the bigger picture for our community. And I think we can discuss the merits of the method, but I know that that has been discussed ad nauseum from the city manager to the city council and people that worked very hard to come up with this plan.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we got. So we got this great sports complex now that we haven't released. We've been awarded. We haven't released. Yeah. The funds haven't been released yet because the tribes have now got a study to dig the dirt up, make sure it wasn't tribal land.
Right.
So
tell everybody where it's going to be at.
Yeah, it's
Because
gonna be,
we keep getting asked that
yeah,
question.
the sports complex at Owens Field, right behind the hospital.
Yep.
And so those three, and there's really nothing in stone yet because there's still a lot of going through, and there's going to be public meetings on this. So it's not going to be a surprise if we have this come in, not come in. There's going to be public meetings and much needed public input is going to be highly invited. But it's going to be at Owens Field. It looks like maybe 3 to 5 fields. Some fields will have lights, some won't, parking and concession, all good stuff. But it's coming. Whether this passes, yes or no, the sports complex will begin as soon as the state releases those funds that the city has been awarded. But so that's right now you pay a sales tax in Guthrie at 9%. That's 4.5 that goes to the state, 3 3/4 goes to the city, and 1/4 or 3/4 of a percent goes to the county. That's your 9%. Right now, this 4% lodging tax in Guthrie, visitors tax, if you will, came about in 1998. It hasn't been addressed. It's been talked about, but it hasn't been addressed.
So the hotel motel tax has not been raised since 1998 when it was established.
Correct.
Okay. Because I know there's some stuff floating out there. Oh, this was just raised a few years ago.
Right.
And the truth is it wasn't.
So when visitors stay, of course, I have a friend that house flooded, so they had to stay in Guthrie. So mostly visitors, there are those rare occasions. But so if you stay in a Guthrie lodging hotel or a bed and breakfast right now, we'll get the Airbnbs here in a minute, but that's 9% plus 4% is 13%. With a yes vote, that would increase to 3%. So the hotel tax would go from 4% to 7%. 9 plus 7 equals 16%, and that's what that would be taxed at. That 3%, right now the lodging tax is funded for tourism and city parks. The additional funding from this 3% would maintain and for big improvements at the ball fields. And that's what it's allotted to. And I understand a lot of people don't trust government. There's a lot of conversations about that. And sometimes rightfully so. But I had someone talk to me today, well, I think in 5 years they're going to take that money and put it toward the water lines. Well, I think that's against the law if you do that. And I think there's, the city council, and they overlook that, and that would be unfair to a city manager, to whoever do that anyway. But the ballot language says it has to be spent this way. If it's not, then they're in trouble spending their money that way.
Hey, there was a quick question there, and I told the gentleman that I would ask it, and I want to be clear that, and this would be directed towards you, Britt, but the gentleman he said he asked the chamber today if the chamber members were polled for their opinion on whether or not they supported the tax increase, and the chamber has not replied yet. I don't know when he asked or anything like that. And he very politely, with 2 exclamation points at the end, said, ask her that question.
Okay.
So,
well, first I will apologize because I did not receive an email or a social media message. Maybe you called the office and we missed you, but I apologize because we definitely tried to be as responsive as possible. So the answer is no. The chamber investors were not polled. That is because we have a board of directors that consists of 20 business owners, employers, presidents, CEOs, all the way down. We have a wide variety of industries that comprises our chamber board. And so the chamber board represents the membership. And so we took a vote at one of our monthly chamber board meetings and voted to take a stance, a yes stance, to represent the chamber. So that's the answer for that. It was not a Brittany decision. It was a board collective decision. And usually, to be honest with you, I've done my research. This is the first time something like this has come up since I've taken over the chamber. So I was like, okay, what do other chambers do? What's the norm for this? I want to make sure that we're doing this correctly. And, most of the time in situations like this, if it's something that aligns with the chamber's mission, which is to enhance and promote Guthrie, and its businesses, then the chamber support something like this is a yes. So and I've had investors reach out. I've had very awesome conversations with investors who don't agree. and that's okay. Like I said, I mean, life would be boring if we all agreed on everything. So I understand that, not everyone may align with what the chamber decided, but we feel there's multiple reasons why we're supporting it.
Sure. And that method of using the input from the board, I know that I've served on that board in the past, and that method has been employed before with other issues.
It was employed when I was on the chamber board 20 years ago.
Yeah.
It's been around forever.
And I just want to say, one of the chamber investors reached out to me on a private message because, if you've been reading this on social media, I've been trying to respond to as much as I can to people's questions. But she goes, I'm voting no against it, and I believe, and she had valid points, and she thanked me for being respectful doing that. So that was, of all this back and forth, and I can't wait till Wednesday morning, but that was a huge compliment to receive that, and I hope others. There's been other people on the other side that are against it have been very respectful as well.
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, if anyone knows, and I'll just say it here with you all watching, I mean, I love and value every single one of our 325 investors, and just because this one issue we may not all see eye to eye, we won't always see eye to eye. And so that doesn't change what the chamber is going to do for our investors and continue to push forward for Guthrie.
One of the questions Rod asked, will Airbnb tax on this as well? Regardless of what happens on Tuesdays with their vote, the city of Guthrie voted to go to the Oklahoma Tax Commission to begin collecting their lodging tax. Right now, cities, municipalities cannot collect from Airbnbs.
Right.
However, the Oklahoma Tax Commission has and will. A lot of, I think Edmond, it starts July 1st with that. So,
but that's at the state level.
At state level, and then the city will pay 0.5% for them administrating that, and then the Oklahoma Tax Commission will release that. So Airbnb will be part of that taxation, regardless of what happens on Tuesday.
Yeah. Some of the questions being asked, Chris, have you been reading through these?
It's easy for you to go through them.
Have you been reading any of them?
No, you go right ahead.
Well, I just want to make sure people understand is, because Chris, obviously everybody knows he's the owner of Guthrie News Page and does all that good work. But I want to make sure everybody understands Chris isn't here as Guthrie News Page right now. Correct?
Wait. With my stance, it's a good question because it needs.
Well, and the reason I bring it up is it was brought up. It says there's not one opposition position on this, and what I would simply say to this, I want to be clear that we're 4 citizens that live inside the city limits that get to vote, that believe that it should be a yes vote. If you believe it should be a no vote, then continue to do what you guys have been doing. I support and think it's great that you can state your opposition. That's wonderful. But the reason there's no opposition, at least from my perspective here, is because we want it to pass. So don't get this twisted as a Guthrie News Page thing. This isn't a Guthrie News Page thing.
And that's fine. If that's the way, that's fine. This is to be informative and to answer those questions. And I get, this was, a lot of people don't like to take a stand, and people give me a hard time for riding the fence sometimes. But this is something I truly believe in. I said it before, do I support every tax that comes through? Absolutely not. Every TIF, no. I liked one TIF. I hated 2 other TIFs. We won't get into that. But this, for what I travel, I have 2 kids. So I get to travel all over, and I get to see what other places have. And I want Guthrie, a place where I grew up, a place I was born, to have that option. And when I see one day, because I know we have a sports complex and we're going to do it, it's going to be so cool to see a cool place with local kids playing on it.
Yeah.
And that means this is my hometown. Yes, I do Guthrie News Page.
Yeah.
And in my article today, I invite you to go read it. I have the facts, I have opposition, I have people for it, and it's just, it drives me crazy when newspapers have editorial, we support this and we support that, and I was like, well, but it finally hit me for the first time. Yeah, I have to be vocal.
Yeah.
Outside my news page, I try to keep it straight and get out of the way, let you decide, but this is close to me.
And I'm enough of a realist to know that I'm sitting here as a parent, but the chances of the work being completed before my son is out of there are probably minimal.
Yeah.
But there were people in this community that came before us that built a lot of really cool buildings a long time ago.
Yeah.
And it took their work to get that done. And that's leave it better than you found it.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think, to Randy's point, he said now if the opposition just had a lovely bully platform to speak at, it would be great. And all I would simply say is, well, Randy, you can do the same thing I did and Chris did. We went and bought all the equipment for this personally. We pay the rent personally because we like to do podcasts. It's a hobby of mine. So there's, again, nobody stopping anybody from doing this. You still got time now. Get some people and hop on Facebook Live. It's not difficult. So, this isn't a bully pulpit. It's for citizens that are registered to vote, just like the opposition people are registered to vote. And we're stating what our views are in a positive way towards this passing. So everybody it's a free country. That's the beautiful thing. And so we can do what we feel is best with our own vote for our community.
And I just, if there's questions out there on, like Rod had a perfect question with the Airbnb, and that's what this is really informative to let we're all parents here of what I think everyone agrees with, that we need the facilities, and also to be informative on what the tax, and just to be transparent. There are people who do go out and check out tax rates. I think it's a very minority, but full transparency, when the oil field people were really going strong, I absolutely believe they probably do shop around because they're there for a week or month or whatever. Yeah. That's one thing I do. I do believe that those oil field companies, I hope they come back soon, do shop. Yeah. Do shop that. So I'm not disagreeing with that one bit. And there's been people that are against it. The one thing is it takes away from the hotel. The hotel, if it's $129, that hotel collects that $129. They're just collecting tax basically for the state, the city, and the county.
Yeah. Well, when I travel, and I don't travel as much as I did at one time, but when I travel, I still base where I stay, number one, on the proximity to where the meetings are going to be, or the games are going to be, or the event that I'm traveling there for. The second thing that I look at is probably loyalty, because I've got a couple of little programs that I've been in with Hilton Honors and some others that
we were talking about that.
But
you three in Hilton?
Yeah, all three of us in Hilton Honors.
We did not get paid by Hilton to promote this.
But I look at the room rate, because the market is what it is wherever I've decided I'm going to stay.
Yep.
And then I look at TripAdvisor and see what the ratings are, see what people say about that property. And because if that property is not getting favorable reviews, I might stay somewhere else. But the first thing is always proximity to wherever the event is going to be that I'm looking to stay near.
Doc, I couldn't agree. We just went to St. Louis to visit a couple of our kids, as you guys know, a few weeks ago. And when I was booking, the first thing I punched in was places to stay within 2 miles of where my kids live.
Yeah.
And I could have saved money being 10 miles away, but I didn't want to drive every time we wanted to go back over their place. So we all make decisions for our own reasons. Some people, maybe it is about the time. I just believe that's fewer.
Fine.
That's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
I still think at the end of the day, if we have a great sports complex and we're running ball tournaments, more people are going to come to this community, spend their dollars in our community, shop downtown, go grab burgers, go out and eat. They're spending the evening. I think you will see an uptick in hotel stays, because both sides, it's just an opinion. We don't know for certain, and they don't know for certain.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. It hasn't happened yet.
Right. It hasn't happened. So neither one of us know. The argument that I then hear is, well, all the Airbnbs and hotels are against it. Okay. Well, that's logical, I guess. I mean, that's fine. But guess what? They're not the only ones in this community.
Yeah.
I mean, we're all citizens of this community. During the pandemic, things happened that affected my businesses. It is what it is.
Yeah.
I mean, those things happen, and I want everybody to thrive. I want everybody's business to be ultra successful, and I think it's going to help our downtown. And something interesting happened today. There was a text sent that said, anybody know who ran this ad in the paper, because my name was listed as being opposed to this, and I didn't give them authorization to put that name in there. And I'm not going to say who it was. I'm not going to say that. And this is me bringing it up. Cell number is 405-420-1311. You got a problem, give me a shout. The point being like you don't have that. The point being is that, you know, everybody is going to state, there's passionate people on both sides of this, and that's okay.
Totally okay.
That's okay. You know, nobody knows definitively what's going to happen or what isn't going to happen. But I do know this. Our kids deserve to have first-rate facilities. My youngest child is 24 years old. I can promise you none of them are ever going to use it.
Yeah.
Hopefully some grandkids will someday. But it's not, you know, the reason I'm a yes vote, because you guys know how much I love paying tax, right? We talk about it all the time. I say I wish I could pay more tax.
Oh, well, here we go.
I think the IRS is a great organization. I love the way they do it. I adore paying tax. It's my favorite thing to do in the whole wide world. Said nobody ever.
Right.
Okay? But there are things cost money. They don't show up with fairy dust and good intentions. I mean, so you got to pay for things. And this is a way to not burden our local citizens the same way every
town,
community in the United States of America does it. This isn't a new concept for Guthrie, Oklahoma.
I always say it's not.
Doesn't matter where you drive. This stuff is used to pay for things like this all over the country. Okay, I mean that's just a reality. I think it's going to help our business downtown. I think it's going to help our community overall, and I guarantee it's going to help our kids. They're going to have first-rate facilities.
I guess the thing that I have reading some of the banner, I'll call it that.
Back and forth.
That's a good one. This is not a good time. Okay, has anyone ever come up with the perfect time to have a discussion about taxes that go up? When is that?
Yeah.
Never.
I've been looking for that. But I haven't found it yet.
Yeah,
exactly.
And there's people, and I get it. Like Phil said, don't like tax. Nobody likes tax, but it's the system that we were given. I'm sure it'll be long after we're gone as well. But I do want to mention, and we're going to be wrapping up here briefly. So if you have any questions, please. I'm
trying to find it.
Yeah, there's not a dumb question. I'm gonna read this here real quick on the opposition of it. But if you have a question, get it in here real quick. We don't got much time. But there is no dumb questions. Trust me. Phil asks them all the time.
I ask them all the time. One of the owners at Roma's just said, what happened to our Constitution and our freedom, taxation without representation? We talked about that earlier. This is such a common practice everywhere in the country. We still have free choice. We still have free choice. Communities get to set tax rates based on the vote of the people. So we're going to have an election tomorrow. If more people vote yes, then it passes. If more people vote no, then it doesn't pass. And hopefully everybody can move on. And then if it is a no vote, then we all got to go back to the drawing board and try to figure stuff out again. And we will do that. If it's a yes vote, then we all need to move forward, be supportive of everybody in the community, support their businesses, do all those things. Absolutely. We need to do that, but I keep seeing the Constitution thrown up. And last time I checked, there is representation. I mean, it's again, I'm no attorney, but if it's done everywhere in the United States, I'm pretty sure if this was unconstitutional, somebody would have challenged it after all these years and it would have been defeated. Again, I'm no attorney. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think I am, but maybe I am.
Well, and you like your Constitution.
Got one in my truck.
Yeah. Okay.
Got a copy of it.
I do want to say this just to give the other side. And that was my intention. I'm not doing this because of a few comments. That was my plan to be informative for both sides. But and then you can keep looking at questions, Phil. Get those questions, and we're going to be here very much longer. One of the local business owners who is against it and part of the No campaign and help rally and talk to people. And he's been very professional as well on social media. The few things that I've said.
Who's this? I'm sorry.
I didn't
hear.
I didn't want to say. But the person said every bed and breakfast owner and every hotel or motel owner is very much against this tax increase. Most of us have not raised our prices in several years, and if this passes, it's pretty much assured we cannot. Taxes, insurance, and utilities have gone up. Inflation is going crazy. He says, I'm all for progress, and I've always been a sports guy as well as my kids. A sports complex would be great, and I applaud those who are working on it. I just wish the hospitality industry was not the one being singled out. And
That's fair.
That is
That's
100%
fair.
That's a fair statement.
100% fair.
That's a fair statement. And like Randy said again, he said, or we can go elsewhere. Absolutely.
Absolutely.
You can go elsewhere. I mean, that's the beauty. You can drive 20 more minutes down the road, or 10, I guess, to the new hotel, or 12 minutes down to the new hotel. If they want to do that, they can do that.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, and I just think, we kind of touched on it a little bit as far as where the chamber board decided to vote or to promote a yes vote is thinking that long term, like filling the facilities with events, therefore drives up tourism, which fills our hotels, our motels, our Airbnbs, our restaurants, our shops, and gives us another opportunity. And I think I said this in my statement too, that in some of our emails and things that have gone out, and that's what we're here to do. And so that's why we're choosing to support something that will better our community and to continue to drive that business here. And that's another just check on the box that we can say, Guthrie has this, and now this. And so that's where we're coming from. But I mean, the awesome thing about what I get to do, I got to refer 2 of our amazing hotels yesterday through a text. And that's not going to stop at all with no matter what happens, with this. And it's not. The local, the choose local, the things that the chamber stands for, none of that's going to stop just because we chose a yes stance on this.
Yeah, I was talking over the last summers. Unfortunately, Mike and Chris know because they had to live through my drama as the big remodel was going on. There was a few days there was nip and tuck. But we moved out of our home while the remodel was being done, and we rented an Airbnb in town from a guy that I think a lot of. I'm not going to mention his name, but he's very well known. And because we signed short-term leases, which is perfectly fine. And his point to me was what would have cost you more if this wasn't this way? And I said, well, yeah, and I would have paid it because I'm from Guthrie. Mm-hmm. This is what I would have paid it. Yeah. I mean, it's not.
And somewhat, and gone. It's 20 minutes down the road.
Correct. I mean, the argument about people not coming or going. We all have the capability to drive 20 minutes to be in Edmond and go buy other things, but I buy everything I humanly can from Ace Hardware. I buy all my groceries in town that I possibly can. I buy my vehicles in town.
Same.
Chris knows because he thinks it's funny that a 50-some-year-old man I love coming down and going through the antique stores by myself. I loved walking in there.
Invite me next time. I'll go with you.
Okay, I'll come get you. But I love those things. Mm-hmm. Really? I love the licorice. Oh yeah, I love the licorice. I'm much more sensitive than you know that. and I love the licorice here in town. I do. I love all this stuff we have. It's what makes it charming.
Yes.
If you're going to go somewhere, if people want to go to Guthrie, Oklahoma, they're going to come. I've got a friend that comes to the Lazy E all the time. Lives in Kansas. Grew up with her. Her son's a big-time roper. They've been coming here for years. Guess where they stay every time? Guthrie, Oklahoma. So I talked to them. I said, would this change your way of making this? No. I mean, I like the fact that I don't have to go into any traffic and stay, and I can pull in, and I can get looped around, and I can do, so, I mean, I understand the concern from the people that are in the business. I do. I get that. Mm-hmm. I do. Yeah. I mean, but, it's for the overall betterment of our community, in my opinion. Mm-hmm. I think it's going to bring more money into our community, in my opinion, and it's darn sure going to be good for our kids.
Mm-hmm. Last call on questions. Phil, I'll let you look at those questions real quick, and then we got to get out of here. But if there's some questions afterwards, I know a lot of people watch the replay on Facebook or YouTube. I'll try to stand by as much as possible to answer some of those questions. But, Stillwater went through this process in February, and I went through their they got a marketing deal, and it's pretty cool. They put a lot of work into it. But, Stillwater, and you're very familiar with Stillwater, but, they had hotels for it. I mean, hotel owners were coming out for it, tons of business owners coming out for it. And they're just, up the road. I don't know if it's a different – I don't know. It was weird because it seemed like it was all positive. I didn't see much negative or hear much negative in Stillwater. But
and this keeps us competitive with our other surrounding communities. Yeah. Perry, Stillwater, and then like we've mentioned before, and I know you've mentioned that we don't have definite answers, but Edmonds possibly looking to increase too. So, you know, the talk of they might go somewhere else, well, you know, eventually there won't be many options because we'll all be around the same hotel motel tax.
And just one more thing that I think is just completely unfair, and I'm kind of going out of my comfort zone to say this, but people going after city government and city council members and city managers,
silly.
It's completely not fair for something that you think that someone thinks that happened 20 years ago and they can't trust them anymore. I can tell you, just because I go to every single school board meeting, I go to every single council meeting, I go to every single county commissioner meeting, the people that I see, now, will they mess up in the future? I don't know. I mean, it could happen.
We're humans.
They're humans. But I can tell you, all those commissioners, all those school board members, all those council members, all those city managers, they work hard for what they do, and they are accountable. And to go after them because something happened or what you perceive they're in government, it's just simply not fair. And it's sad to hear that, but I know it happens, and I know people are anti-tax. I know people are anti-government, and that's going to happen. 3 out of 10 people are going to vote no matter what tax out there. So I just want to say that I can't give enough credit to City Manager Leroy Alsop, who has done a ton.
I mean, they found a way to get $2 million
of paperwork
to start this.
And the city council.
And,
right.
you know, Chris,
worked
the
their tails
thing
off.
that your point's well taken, and I think it would be remiss if we didn't highlight the fact that the last 2 years have been pretty hard on decision makers.
Yes.
Because everything that we've been faced with in many cases is divisive.
Yes.
And the people that are charged with making those decisions, they don't get up every morning and go to work to make enemies.
Right.
And they have to deal with that when it comes across.
And one more compliment I want to give out is the business owners, the investors here in Guthrie, because the times with COVID and all that stuff, Guthrie has stayed afloat. Sales tax receipts prove that. Lodging tax went down 18% during the COVID year, as we can all expect, but it rebounded 20% the following year. But that's a credit to our hotels, our motels, and to our investors.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it's everybody, you know, I've said this time and time again, it's everybody rallying together. I mean, I was terrified to start with the chamber 2 weeks into the pandemic going, how do we show our relevance? How do we help here? And Guthrie showed that, you know, and we've just continued to grow and get better together. And that's just this is just another one of those things that we see that can happen. And Wednesday we'll wake up and we won't stop doing what we do. All of us, you know.
Yeah.
Any last second questions, Phil?
No, there's a lot of statements, no questions,
Okay.
And that's okay.
That's why it's here for.
Yeah, and all I would just say is this. I mean, I appreciate the people that are on here that are not for it. To me, that's part of the process, and that's good.
We could have very easily,
but that's part of the process. I didn't have to read any of these questions. I could have ignored all of them. And I don't know any of these people personally anyway. I know of a couple of these people, but I've never had a conversation with any of them that are calling me greedy. But I've been called a lot of things, never greedy, but I have now.
That bounces
off. Yeah, bounces off. But the point being is, again, get out and vote tomorrow. Those of us here believe it should be a yes vote for all the reasons we've stated. We know there are people out there that are concerned about it. That's fine too. That's what makes it so wonderful that we can go do these things. But I think a yes vote is going to do great things for our kids. I think it's going to help our businesses overall, and I think that's a reason enough to do it. And as always, we should always spend as much money as we can, humanly can, here in Guthrie. That's where we should be spending our money.
Is that true, Chamber Girl?
I would say so. # choose Guthrie.
Final thoughts, guys, as we get out of here again. Both,
wait, there is one thing.
Polls are open 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. tomorrow.
Sorry, John wants a Jumbotron at the ball fields. I think he's being funny, but
Pagonis.
Yeah.
Of course. Pagonis at the haunts. I want a Jumbotron at the haunt first.
Go vote.
Oh, wait, there is a question. I'm so sorry.
Yes,
Connie did ask a late question. Will the tax only go towards an athletic center and parks? What if we need something in schools, like better playgrounds or more modern facilities? Mike, do you want me to take this, or do you want to take this?
That's all you, Dr.
This is
Simpson.
a city deal. This
has nothing to do with the school district
No,
and the
right.
taxes.
Yeah, this has nothing to do with.
I'm here as a father.
Yeah.
Nothing to do with that.
But to answer that question, this has nothing to do with the school whatsoever. Dr. Mike is here purely as a father of 2 kids that go to school here. They're all over the community here, very engaged. As a matter of fact, I think your sweet daughter was at dance class here when you showed up. I'm a little worried you left single L unattended. Not unattended. He's with an adult. He's
by
with
a
an
very
adult.
capable staff member that chose to take him in with her son.
Yeah, but Colin thinks he's 32, so that worries me a little bit.
Another question.
That's a good point, because we have been asked that too. You know, that 3%, because I think I cleared up some questions yesterday on Facebook, the same thing. That 3%, and somebody asked, well, what's going to change with tourism? Nothing, right? The 4%, that was
for parks and tourism.
Yes, proposed in 1998, passed, is still going to stay to parks and tourism.
Yes.
The 3% increase, if passes, will be allocated to these facilities.
And another question, does it go away? No, it does not. This would be a permanent deal, just like in 1998 when they passed the parks and tourism, the original lodging tax. That's also has no sunset as well. So,
hey, before we get off, would you like to share with everybody who won the between us the bracket and the NCAA tournament?
We appreciate everyone stopping by. Brittany's got to get to.
Wasn't me.
I
So
didn't have it.
I appreciate you guys stopping by. Hopefully this was informative. Again, if there's some questions, I'll be glad to answer those in the message. And Mike, you have to go through this all the time back and forth. It was a little different for me, and for you guys who do politics every day of your lives.
Bless your hearts.
I'm Wednesday. I'm ready to rest on Wednesday.
Chris and I both talked about that, because this is a first for me as well. But
All right, appreciate it. For Brittany Timmons, Mike Simpson, Phil Nichols, I'm Chris Evans. Thanks for listening.
Thank you all.